And we're live.
Woohoo! What's up, Gary?
We are back. I get so pumped up when we're getting ready to do one of these podcasts.
Me too.
So my name is Jay Grossman, and I am the founder and CEO of iAutoAgent. And this is
I'm David Marks with Quality Auto STL, trusted services with no surprises.
So we're going to talk about today. We get a lot of people asking us about extended warranties. Should you buy it? Should you not buy it? Today you're going to find out, and you're going to find out all the in between, and we're going to answer all the questions in just a few seconds.
Have you ever felt like you were taken for a ride when buying, selling, or repairing your car? Well, not anymore. I'm Jay.
And I'm Dave.
And this is the podcast that tells you what to watch out for, whether you're buying, selling,
or repairing your car.
With 47 years of automotive experience, we are the Automotive Authorities. This podcast is sponsored by iAutoAgent. We're real estate agents for cars.
And Quality Auto STL, trusted services with no surprises.
All right, Dave.
I love watching that.
What?
I love watching that, man.
I do too. It gets me fired up. This audience, you guys can make comments and all types of things throughout this process here. We even put our own little comment in there. So I want to really, before we get going, I want to give a shout out to Techie Tony Media. He is the man behind this whole thing. He makes it happen for all of us, so we get to just show up.
Yes, he does.
Anyway, so man, I've been excited to talk about this, and I think it's great because, you being a technician, let's talk about warranties. So here's the reality of things. We all call these things extended warranties, but in reality, they are not extended warranties. They are called vehicle service contracts. That is the politically correct term. They're not extended warranties. They're not an extension of your warranty. It's a completely different policy that is backed by an insurance company. And hopefully it's a really good insurance company that's stable. And we're going to talk about reputation. We're going to talk about the different types of vehicle service contracts throughout this whole thing. And I'm going to bring up the term limited. What did we learn last time? It's kind of a scary word. When you see limited, it means that not everything is covered. And then we hear these words like powertrain. The powertrain is covered. Dave, I'm going to let you chime in. What does powertrain mean?
Powertrain to me means the internal components, the internal parts of the engine and transmission, not the sensors that are mounted or bolted to it, none of the gaskets, none of the seals, just the internal guts, the internal moving parts.
So for all you that don't know what he just said, he basically said engine, front end, and transmission. That's it. And powertrain is very limited. And then you have to be careful when you get these contracts, and you have to read all the small print on these contracts to make sure that you know what's being covered. Because Dave, when I tell you that you got a warranty with your car, what does that make you feel like?
Makes me feel happy.
Does it give you good? And it gives you a peace of mind, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, not all warranties are created equal, and these are actually called vehicle service contracts. That's exactly what they're called. And I'm going to use the words stated. Have you ever heard of that before, Dave?
Yeah. Being in business, I've heard that a few times.
Okay, so you have powertrain, and then you have stated. And what stated is a little bit better than powertrain. It states the things that are covered on your car if you were to purchase the policy. And everything that you see is covered. And if you don't see it, it is not covered. But the third type of a vehicle service contract is what I want to talk about today, and that's called an exclusionary. And what exclusionary is everything is covered on your car. So when you're looking at these policies, everything is covered unless it is stated, the component is stated that it's not covered. And that's the best type of vehicle service contract to get. So when we think about things that break on the cars, let's talk about like Toyotas and Hondas. It's not usually the engines that blow up on those cars. What is it, Dave? What are the things that you fix on the cars?
We fix a lot of CV axles. I'll do thousands on Asian cars before we do domestics. A lot of sensors, oxygen sensors. We replace a lot of oxygen sensors on Asians. A lot of brake work, a lot of maintenance, that type of stuff. But very rarely do we put engines or transmissions in Hondas and Toyotas. If we do, it's been neglected severely.
Exactly. And for the most part, most cars will go a really long way if you keep oil in them and you just keep them maintained. But here are the things that actually break on cars, and listen really closely. The screens on your car break. The power locks, the power windows, and Dave, do you know about what's going on right now with this chip shortage?
I've heard about that, but I haven't educated myself on that much. I mean, I've heard about it, but I don't know the whole story.
So basically, as you know, Dave, these cars are completely computers, and the same chips that we have in our mobile phones and mobile devices are being used in the cars we drive. However, because of the pandemic last year, all the automotive manufacturers, they were shutting down because nobody was out buying cars. So the chip manufacturers that they use this chip to make the car function, they said, hey, we don't need you as our business. We're going to go sell our chips to mobile device companies and phone companies. And that's who we're going to sell the chips to. And now the automotive companies are back in business and they're like, hey, we need those chips. They're like, we don't have a whole lot left. And now it's starting to shut down production on automotive again, which is causing a shortage of new cars. But that's a whole nother story. Yeah. But my whole point is, when you get into these cars and they have Apple Play and Android and all these different things, these cars are computers. And it's very, very expensive when one thing breaks. So the question is an exclusionary vehicle service contract a good idea? And the answer is sometimes. In fact, most of the time, I think it is. But let's dig in this a little bit further. And Dave, I'm going to leave this one to you. When somebody comes to you and they need to make a claim on their vehicle service contract, what do they have? They have a deductible. And sometimes these deductibles are really, really high. Sometimes they have zero deductible. And you have to really look at that small print when you are getting a vehicle service contract, because you need to know what your deductible is, because that's what you have to pay, Dave, when you service your car. You got to pay that deductible. And the best deductible typically, obviously, is zero, but most of them are going to be $100. Some of them are $200. But the other thing to really look at is, where do you service your car? Can you go to a trusted services with no surprises, David Marks of Quality STL? Or do you have to go to their own places to do your servicing? The legitimate companies out there all will let you go to an ASE certified mechanic anywhere in the country. That should be the rule of thumb, and that's Mr. David Marks. So I want to talk about the big question here, and this is a big one. What about the hourly rate, Dave, and the diagnostic charge? Let's talk about hourly rates.
Yeah, the extended warranty companies don't have an issue paying the hourly rate. That's never been an issue. Now, as far as the time for us to, to test or inspect, sometimes that's covered, sometimes it's not. My experience with these is people find out what they have when they come to me, and I make up that phone call and I say, here's a contract number, and typically deductible is $100. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen a zero yet. Not that they're not out there, but I haven't seen one, and I haven't seen one over 100. Over 100. 100 is definitely par for the course. But yeah, you find I've seen it where they don't cover this, they don't cover that, or they only, pay for this and not pay for that. Sometimes they pay that testing or diagnostic charge. Sometimes they don't. That's when people find out what they have.
And the really good companies out there that provide these vehicle service contracts, they pay for that diagnostic charge only if it's a covered repair. So when we talk about the words bumper to bumper, there is no such thing as a bumper to bumper warranty unless you have bought a brand new car. And they usually have restrictions still on brand new cars about being a bumper to bumper. So the next closest would be exclusionary. And typically exclusionary vehicle service contracts, they will mirror the factory warranty for a legitimate company. So then when you're talking about like, how do you find a legitimate company? Can you look at Google reviews? Can you look at reviews online? Sometimes, but let's face it, are you going to leave a good review? Usually the people that are purchasing these vehicle service contracts, they're not going to be too happy when they have to go repair their car, and especially when the technician turns them away because their company will not back the policy.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, the very best way to find the very best vehicle service contracts out there, talk to people like Dave. Dave will tell you right off the bat what companies are paying and what companies are not paying. And I've dealt with these. I've dealt with these for a long, long time, and I know a lot about them. I know the insides and I know the outs. And a lot of people get called, out of the blue. And sometimes even the DMV actually sells your information to vehicle service contract companies. And they say, oh, you're out of warranty. And they try to scare people. Be careful of those companies that are contacting you. Not all of them are bad. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that you just have to be really careful and find legitimate companies. Mm-hmm. And if somebody does not have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, then they really screwed up, because it's really hard it's really hard to be to not get a A+ rating. So basically, what we've learned today so far is we have powertrain, we have stated, and we have exclusionary. And that's really what you want, is an exclusionary. I totally believe in them. But let's face it, they're not cheap. And neither is when your car breaks either. So you have to look at the vehicle that you're driving. Are you driving a Toyota or Honda? Because the warranties, the vehicle service contracts are going to be way less than if you're driving a BMW. And why is that, Dave?
Well, I mean, that's BMWs are just expensive to fix and the get-go. We got to buy a lot of dealer parts, and they require special service tools, and they're just more to maintain. It's just a higher cost of ownership. Anything European, for that matter. I mean, you can throw them all in there, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. So if you go to get a BMW vehicle service agreement, you go and do a Range Rover, Jaguar, any of those companies, and you have to look at it this way. Remember, these vehicle service contracts are being provided by companies that are backed by insurance companies, and everything is based on risk. So if you have a vehicle that has a greater chance for repairs at a more expensive cost, you will be paying out the wazoo for a vehicle service contract.
Yeah.
And it's all based on risk. It's just like your insurance agent. If you like to have accidents, you're probably not going to have a very good insurance rate, are you?
No.
And it's also based on the model year and the mileage on the vehicle too. The more miles, the greater risk. The less miles, the less risk. That's why when you buy a brand new car or close to it, it's best to purchase the vehicle service contract at that time than to wait, because if you wait, the cost goes up. But what people don't know, Dave, is the legitimate companies out there, there's actually a cash value to that vehicle service contract at all times. So if you decide to buy the vehicle service contract right now and you decide to cancel it, let's say you do a 5-year and 60,000 miles and you cancel it in 2 years, you're going to get a return rebate on partially of what you paid for the vehicle service contract. So there's really not a downside to purchase it ahead of time than to wait till it has over, factory warranty miles. And now you're going to be paying out the wazoo, because you can always get a prorated amount back. Also, if you want to sell the vehicle, most companies only charge $50 to transfer that vehicle to a private owner, but you can't transfer it to a dealer. Only a private owner. And it also adds to the value of your car. And it's just a kind of a nice thing to be able to build value in your car. And then finally, what I want to talk about is Bobby's dad. Let's just call him Bobby's dad. Bobby's dad came to me, and we were helping him with a vehicle service contract, and Bobby's dad wanted to buy a 2007 GMC Yukon with 70,000 miles. So it sounds really good. And we had told him a price for the vehicle service contract, and he decided not to do it. And the reason why you have to purchase at that time is there's things called fraud. And that's why the dealerships, the legitimate dealerships out there, they want to sell those contracts now, because they don't want to sell it to you 3 months from now when you actually have a problem. Guess what? Bobby's dad had a problem, a $7,000 problem. So Bobby's dad comes to me and he's like, "Hey, can I still get that vehicle service contract? I have a transmission that they're quoting me $7,000. And I'm like, no, you can't. That would be fraud, and we don't do that. So we consult with people on vehicle service contracts all the time to make sure, like if you have a question out there and you're just not sure and you just want a second opinion, either call me at iAutoAgent or Dave at Quality Auto STL. We'll give you the best advice possible. We'll even read the contracts for you, all of the things, because we just want you to make an educated decision, because you don't need it until you have a problem. And that's why you can't buy it when you have a problem. It's just like health insurance, or I'm sorry, life insurance. Yeah. When you have a problem, nobody wants to offer you life insurance. But when you don't have a problem, everybody wants you to offer you life insurance. And that's really what it comes down to, is it's all based on risk. So let's talk about the last part of it, is the claims process. Dave, what's your experience in the claims process? What do people have to go through?
Not much, really. I mean, typically, once we complete the repair, I print out a copy of the repair order. I have them sign it. They pay me their deductible. And then I just send a copy to the insurance company, and some of them pay by check, some of them pay by credit card. But yeah, I know I'm going to get paid. That is the nice thing about it, is I haven't seen a insurance company try to pull a fast one on me. that is a nice thing about them is, hey, the shop owner knows that we're going to get paid for this job. We don't have to worry about it, especially with the legit companies.
Yeah, exactly. So it should be very simple when it comes to the claims process. I know a warranty company out there, we'll call them again a vehicle service contract company, that they staff the people, and I'm not naming any names, with technicians just like you. When you need to make a claim, they call the company to make the claim to an ASE certified technician. What does that tell you? And I don't know if you're catching on to this one yet, but the companies out there, there's some that pay and there's some that don't pay. And the ones that are staffing their people with ASE certified technicians, they're figuring out ways that they don't want to pay. And that's not the company you want to be dealing with. You want to be dealing with companies that pay. And once again, you talk to Dave and he'll tell you which companies pay and which ones don't.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you the very best companies out there. I know the best companies out there. And it's a complicated type of thing because there are a million different companies out there. And I don't really recommend completely looking at reviews as the way to find the best companies out there. Because let's face it, most people write reviews when they're unhappy, not when they're happy. And if you can find 4 and 5 stars, reviews out there, then that means that company's got something going right. But Dave, I know you had a story of, tell us, we have a few more minutes here. Tell us that story. You were telling me earlier about.
Yeah. I had a guy, he had a 2013 F-150 EcoBoost. They're known for timing chains. That's a standard procedure we've done here before. So he brought us his truck and he had a service contract. Now, if he was smart, he would have bought it through AutoAuthorities instead of on his own. And Jay would have hooked him up with everything he needed. But anyway, so I kept trying to get a hold of this warranty company to make the claim. And a couple days goes by, we didn't hear nothing. And I called, checked back over, I'm waiting on somebody to call me back. And the guy needed his truck. So we fixed it and we just went and fixed it. And finally, after 2 weeks goes by and we fix his truck, they come around, they contact me and they just said, oh, we need to send an inspector out. So they expected this guy to wait 2 weeks for him to send an inspector out so he could verify, our testing that it needed timing chains. And it turned into a fiasco. They denied the claim. They didn't want to pay anything. It was not a company you wanted to do business with. I don't even remember that, but this is just a good example of do your homework on the front end. Know you're dealing with a legit company, because that's the first time I'd ever run across them wanted to send somebody out to inspect it. And it's just, we ended up working it out, but that was a bad scenario.
It's a good point. And again, the way you find out whether you're working with a legitimate, call me, call Dave. We'll let you know like what we know, because if you need your car and there's an inspector that has to inspect the car and you have to wait for that, I mean, I wouldn't be too happy.
No, it was 2 weeks before they got back to us, and I'd already fixed the truck because he didn't want to wait.
Yeah. So, all in all, in my opinion, I definitely think that they are a very smart move when you are purchasing from a legitimate company. Do not buy on price, because you will pay for what you get. And I always say this, and I'm just going to kind of leave with this, is sometimes when you're at dealerships and you see like they have a 30-day, 1,000-mile warranty on the powertrain and it's 50-50. that warranty's not going to cover crap. It is seriously like not even worth the paper that it's written on. even these 3-month, 3,000-mile warranties, they all have companies where they're buying these policies. They're all insurance policies. And if you read the small print, you can make an educated decision on whether you should or whether you shouldn't buy a warranty. So, or vehicle service contract. See, I'm saying it now. But anyway, I just wanted to once again thank Techie Tony Media for sponsoring and just making this all happen. Dave, what should we talk about next time? Because we've gone through a lot.
I think what we should next week, which is on the list, would be, preparation if you're going to buy a car, like what you sell, Jay. If you're looking, you're kind of above me, but below, new cars. If you're looking at that market, what do you do? How do you prepare for that? Because that's completely different than buying brand new.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect lead in. And we have the questions that we're getting are actually from our audience. And if you have questions, please not only like and subscribe, if you could be so kind, but put your comments in the areas where you can. We see those comments. We see what the things that you want to hear, because we can't predict what our audience wants to hear, but we can present based on what we know. And it is a very, very tricky thing to buy a used car. And we're not talking about the certified. We're talking about just a used car online, how to get the very best deal, but most importantly, how to get a vehicle that, because it doesn't matter what price you paid for the car if the car doesn't do what you want it to do. So yeah, let's talk about that. That'll be very exciting. And obviously I'll have my opinions and as I always do.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. Again, my name is Jay Grossman. I'm the founder and CEO of iAutoAgent.com. Please feel free and send a message. We answer all messages. There isn't anybody that we will not answer. And that is Mr. David Marks of Quality STL, trusted services with no surprises. And Dave, I'm really excited. I think we got a lot talked about next week, as we always do.
Yes, sir.
But everybody have a great night. We're signing off.
Bye, everybody. Take care, Jay.
Bye.